subculture that celebrates simplicity, nature, and self-sufficiency has gained traction in the early 2020s, and the young people practicing call it cottagecore. Cottagecore aims to replicate the aesthetic of Western European agriculturalists and artisans. The aesthetic movement parallels the Northwestern European art movement, Romanticism. Similar features include the artistic appreciation for solitude, the natural world, and country living. Despite the significant role that European aesthetics play in the artistic movement, cottagecore has a sizable global following, many of whom share their experiences through social media. This video essay explores how social media has contributed to the rise of this subculture's global popularity. I aim to identify the factors that have allowed social media to act as the catalyst in globalizing this phenomenon. The first theory I'll discuss is Pennington's theory of social media as a third space. The third space allows people to express themselves in alternative ways. Social media as a third space allows people to share their thoughts and interests with others across the globe. Online connections can develop into safe, supportive online communities that can expand and become entire subcultures. Pennington's theory can explain how the cottagecore subculture was able to proliferate in popularity on social media. Those engaging in conversations about cottagecore online are often using their social media presence as a third space to resist hegemonic and normative understandings of the world. In a society so consumed by technology, advancement, and modernism, a new romanticism, cottagecore, appears to have been an appropriate countercultural item. People across the globe are burdened by modernism and want to regress to a simpler, less complicated time. The accessibility of a movement taking place almost entirely online has also likely allowed cottagecore to gain international attention. People around the world are using social media as a third space to explore their cottagey desires. The second theory I'll mention is Mies's conclusions drawn from his selfies at funerals investigation. Mies found that the funeral selfie was an expression of life. It was how people were dealing with the confronting concept of death. Similarly, it can be argued that young people participating in the aesthetic of cottagecore are also working through negative emotions. The same way someone may take a selfie at a funeral as a way to document an experience that carries complicated emotions, people may share photos of gardens and cottages as a way to celebrate life during a time of emotional instability and uncertainty. This theory becomes even more plausible when considering that cottagecore reached the height of popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic affected people around the world, especially those in larger cities or populated urban areas. It makes sense that people in big cities who have been forced to isolate indoors may be daydreaming about isolation in a quaint cottage in the countryside. The COVID-19 pandemic affected the entire world, so the attraction of the cottagecore lifestyle would ideally have a global interest. As Mies explains, young people utilize social media to deal with painful times. So evidently, in an environment in which staying indoors is required, people are using social media to comfort and distract themselves from reality. The warm and homey nature of cottagecore is soothing, and therefore attracted significant attention on social media during the pandemic. My third theory sees brand analysis of the cottagecore aesthetic. Brand praises the movement's accessibility, mentioning that the aesthetic requires no more than an internet connection to participate. You do not necessarily have to live the cottagecore lifestyle to appreciate the movement or engage in the community. I agree that the accessibility of cottagecore due to its online presence makes it ideal for anyone who has likely contributed to its popularization. The extensive online communities serve as the foundation for the social media takeover of cottagecore. The rise in cottagecore's popularity saw many online communities expand and begin interacting across platforms. Despite its debut on Tumblr, cottagecore has evolved to become popular on sites such as Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok, and has allowed people from all over the world to share their cottagecore lifestyle. One example comes from blogger, and apologies I will butcher this name, Li Ziki, who practices Chinese cottagecore and has over 34 million followers on Douyin, Chinese TikTok. The popularity of Lin's Douyin page suggests that cottagecore has gained significant international attention. The final theory I'll discuss explores the role globalization has played in transmitting cottagecore around the world. Culture and cultural flow can develop homogenetically, but also heterogenetically in the process of adaptation as opposed to colonization. This flow can occur in any direction, not just from west to east. I believe the heterogeneous nature of cottagecore has contributed to its popularity. The themes of nature, simplicity, and resourcefulness translate well across all cultures. People worldwide can participate in the subculture and adapt in ways that are culturally appropriate for them. Cottagecore is not limited by its cultural proximity, due in part to its giant social media presence. The aesthetic draws heavily from Western and Eastern influences, including European Romanticism in the West and Morikai aesthetic in the East. Social media communities work together to blend ideas and communicate aesthetics. After much exploration on the topic, including the analysis of theories from Pennington, Mies, Brand, and Appadurai, I have concluded that 3 primary factors have contributed to how social media has allowed cottagecore to achieve global success. The first factor is that social media acts as a third space, where people can express themselves freely and explore alternative ideas. The alternative idea of 2020 happened to be cottagecore, meaning that those who utilize social media as a third space likely encountered the concept and may have also taken interest in it. The second factor is that the comforting nature of the cottagecore aesthetic has served as a distraction for people during the COVID-19 pandemic. As Brand points out, cottagecore's substantial social media presence made it easy for people to participate from anywhere, including cities experiencing lockdowns. The third factor is the heterogeneous way in which cottagecore can spread and even be adapted between cultures. Cottagecore has great cultural proximity, meaning anyone can participate in their way wherever they are in the world. And despite conclusions drawn in this video essay, I believe there is still so much to discover about cottagecore and about how social media trends go global. Thank you so much for watching this video essay. You can check out the transcript of this essay on my blog. It'll be the first link in the description. Thank you so much.